This is going to be painful, guys, because there's a lot of news. Okay. All right. Goliath had two news releases in my absence. One was a news release, I think, 2 weeks ago about gold associated with an intrusive feeder. Okay. Now, we've recognized recently that there are reduced intrusives here at SureBet. They're not the same belt. This is not the Tintina belt. This is way down in the Golden Triangle. So it's way off to the south of the Tintina region. But nonetheless, the chemistry of the magma that probably generated the deposit at SureBet appears to have some affinity with reduced intrusive. All right, so what did they see? Well, they intercepted this 12-gram intercept over 10 meters in a drill hole that was drilled a while back. I think I might have mentioned this briefly, but basically they were in a rush. They didn't assay the entire hole. This is an old hole. It's like 2 years old. They went back, they re-assayed, and they kind of their eyes wide open. They went back in and resampled areas of core where they hadn't had numbers. Okay, and they hit bigly. This is really, really interesting. First of all, it does provide us a very kind of concrete evidence that there is a reduced intrusive associated with gold mineralization at SureBet. That's really interesting. But it also potentially is an interesting target, like in its own right. Okay, so this is good news. Go to the next slide. This simply shows some of the core there. Like we can't zoom in and look at the core, but basically the textures of that core are porphyritic reduced intrusive, much like we see at Snowline, at Valley, for example. So, it's the same. It's got the same flavor, and the little light patches in there, those are centered by quartz veins, sheeted quartz veins, and that's where the gold occurs. The gold occurs in the quartz veins, usually with the bismuth and tellurium, just like we see at Snowline. Very interesting stuff. So that's good news. Go to the next slide. And then they had another news release. I think this was earlier this week. It was nearly 11 grams gold equivalent over 10 meters. And this is out of a drill hole that hit multiple loads. Okay, as it went down, as these things are relatively flat loads. So as they went down, they actually hit a number of intervals. But this is the one interval out of hole. Doesn't say the name of the hole. Anyway, out of the SureBet zone. All right, now they have a lot of holes coming back yet, so we have lots more news, but let's look at this a little closer. Go to the next slide. Okay, here you can see the core from this interval. I've talked repeatedly about the nature of this mineralization. It's kind of a stockwork shear zones that are relatively flat. The width of this is substantial, 10 meters, plenty of width for mining. I mean, that's delightful. It should be a really nice deposit to model and then hopefully mine one day. Notice they hit multiple loads, not only this one in the SureBet, but they hit some high grade in the Bonanza. I think there's two intercepts in the Bonanza zone, including, these are terrible, something. I think it's 6 grams over 5 meters or something like that. I can't read it quite, but again, it's kind of the baklava model. Okay, they've got a stack of loads here. I think this is really interesting. Go to the next slide. And they've also started to put some diagrams together. They're very illustrative about what they're hitting. Okay, so this little snippet that I clipped out of the news release shows a sectional view. It's kind of north-southish through the system, and the different colored loads, there's the yellow ones and then there's the purple or blue ones down there. Those are the different ledges or loads of gold mineralization they've encountered. SureBet is one of the uppermost one, but then you go down into the Bonanza and such below. Okay, this hole 247 is one of the holes in this most recent release. It's kind of the flag for it is kind of right there in the center of the image. And notice it hit 13 grams gold equivalent over 7.95 meters. Again, plenty of thickness there, real robust intercept. This should make a great mine. Okay, but that gives you a very clear picture of what they're dealing with. I'll tell you what, I'm going to go to the 3D model for just a jiffy. I won't take too long on this one. because we've seen it multiple times. But I'll give people at least a sense of what. There we go, Goliath, of where these holes are. You can see this, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Now, one of the things I'll do at the beginning here, I'm gonna turn topography on for just a jiffy. It's a very, very dense model. In other words, the topography, which takes a little while to actually load here, is a huge part of this model, and it slows my computer down. So I don't want to bore people, but just the extent of the gold system is jaw dropping. Okay, look at the scale bar down here. This is a scale bar that kind of shifts as I zoom in and out. That's a kilometer right now. So basically, this footprint of gold mineralization underneath this mountain is, say, a kilometer this way by at least a kilometer north south, but it's also vertically about a kilometer tall. Okay, this is a huge volume of rock. In other words, with respect to many gold systems, this thing just has the feel of a very large gold system. All right, now as I turn this around, you can start to see things line up. Okay, for example, these intercepts here are the Sherbet zone. Okay, so that's your Sherbet zone. Yes, it wobbles up and down a little bit, but generally you can hold your mouth just right and you can kind of see them all hang together there. And then down here, if I turn this about like so, you can kind of see the Bonanza ledge take shape right through here. Okay. Lots of room to grow, though. They have intercepts like, look at this guy. This right here, 263. It's a one-off intercept. What does that grade? It grades 12.5 grams. But there's no drilling around it. Okay, there's absolutely no drilling down in this area. So in other words, if the Bonanza ledge comes along, this confirms it. Great, but there's a lot of room down here to expand things. And that's what I want to emphasize to people is that this deposit is in no way, shape, or form closed off, in my view. When you see high grade hits, like, for Pete's sakes, I mean, look at this. There's a high grade hit way the heck out here. Look at that guy right there. Like, what's that doing there? Okay, don't know, but that's a 57-gram sample, and it's way over there. Like, that's a kilometer and a half from where the rest of these drill holes are. Anyway, that's usually the sign of a big gold system. I can't wait to see the company drill aggressively. I think they're already talking about a pretty big program for this coming season, and this deposit easily justifies that. All right.